And here we go. I'm live, it says. I don't actually know when the exact moment that I go live is, but there's letters that come up and go, "You're live." So hopefully I'm live. I missed you, tribe. I'm so excited to be here. I'm gonna wait a little bit before I give the best stuff, the best best news. But there's really neat things that I'm gonna talk about today. Um, Leave a comment if you are here and you want to say hi, and I'll say hi back in real time. I don't think there's going to be a lot of latency. I hope not. If there's any issues that anybody is having at all with the sound, or if anything is out of sync, just let me know, and I'll see what I can do. The Genify is here. Jeffrey, hey, it's so good to see you. Thanks for being here. We made it to 1,000. Woo! It's pretty awesome. We unlocked a bunch of features. Being able to send out posts from YouTube is one thing, and then also sending out gifts, and now we can. I could do a YouTube video again from my phone or my iPad, so that's really awesome. Usually I'll probably do it from here, but it's nice to have the ability to do a quick one if I'm somewhere and I'm mobile. It'd be pretty awesome to be able to do that. So I'm excited about that. I'm going to talk about, for those people who are not watching this live, I'm coming on first of all to just say thank you. We made it to 1,000, and that's awesome. That's incredible, and we should be able to grow a lot faster, and we have been growing a lot faster lately because of having those features unlocked. It's really going to help because it'll allow me to be interactive a lot easier. But I'm going to talk about who that famous person was that I've mentioned, that has seen Dangerous to Know, and I'm going to let you know a bit about that person's reaction. And I'm going to talk about the future of Dangerous to Know and where it's at right now with everything. It's definitely really exciting. And I will update everyone on Superhuman, and also on the Dangerous to Know novel, because I think those two things are probably the things that people are the most excited about. At least here on my channel, most of the people that are here right now are still aware of me more as being a novelist than as a movie director. And also I'm going to be on a really big podcast. I think the biggest podcast that has anything to do with film, on iTunes, and I'll let you guys know the date, because I know the date. I'm just waiting until there's a few more people here live. But if you're here, say hello, and I hope everything sounds okay. I hope everything is in sync. Hope the room looks okay. Hope the sound is clear. I don't know how many people saw the Shifty Perspective podcast that I think I was on. I think it was on 2 weeks ago. Was it 2 weeks ago? Maybe 10 days ago. But we did it in this way because it was on YouTube, and that is still available. So if you go to their channel, you'll be able to find that and watch it. And that was really exciting, and it was fun. We did a long one. I think it was 90 minutes, so it was a really good one. Okay, so I'm gonna start talking about my news. So the super clean bra. Okay, thank you. And super sharp. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Maybe I need to take the sharpening down then on my on everything, on my LUTs and everything from now on, because I'm not so sure that I want to be that sharp, at least on these. I need some intense skin smoothing to happen. So I guess most of the people who are going to see this are going to watch this as a recording, but for those lucky enough to be here early on, I'll start with well, hang on, actually, I won't start with the biggest news. I'll start with maybe the thing that everyone thinks they're the most interested in, which is actually really fascinating. It's superhuman. So, uh, yeah, I'm working on it all the time, and I really need to post a picture. Um, I guess I'll get Jenny to take one. It's ridiculous what I'm doing. It's fun though. I really enjoy doing it. It's we, we've done a DIY zero gravity chair for me to sit in, and it's in an effort to have me working through the edit as many hours a day as possible without physically breaking down. It's tricky a little bit because even if you're in a really ergonomic position, you don't realize that your neck might be just a little bit tensed, and if that happens over a 12-hour period, it can be pretty excruciating afterwards. So um, I did a lot of research and found these chairs that looked like they would solve the problem, but they were always thousands and thousands of dollars. So then did a lot more research to figure out how I could make one on the cheap, and so yeah, I managed to do that. But it's pretty funny to get myself in a position where my weight is spread out while I'm writing, and also that I'm not activating my neck muscles at all. It's like I'm on my way to the moon. We've been calling it the rocket chair because it is kind of ridiculous every time I get into it. I have to like clip this extra desk that's adjustable onto the chair every time I get on, and there's so many other things I need to do to make it work. There's a cervical pillow for my neck. It's this whole thing, um, but it's exciting because it's worked, and so I've been able to work on it for a long time, and I'm very, very, very immersed. Um, and so people will get to see that soon, and you know how long it is. It's really like you're getting the second half of the Posthuman series. I mean, that's really how long it is. So I know everyone wants that, and I want it. I want it out too. It's going to be really fun. Then Dangerous to Know the novel will be right on its heels, um, and then the audiobook becomes the next thing I'm creating that's on the list. But every day things are happening with the movie. So with the Dangerous to Know film, we've submitted it to a lot of different um, festivals now. So we had submitted it to Cannes, but I think most people think that Cannes is just one festival, but it's not. It's broken into different parts, and there's different competitions. We submitted to the first one, which was the first time director, because that's where the first deadline was. But they canceled it the day after the deadline. So we submitted it on the last day, and then it was canceled. Um, and and so I think Cannes has announced movies that they would have screened had the festival gone ahead, but we didn't even know that they were doing that. There's things that you need to do behind the scenes to give your movie a chance. Because we get advised by one of the co-founders of Sundance, and which is an amazing connection, obviously, that we have. But we were advised to do some things that would have taken an investment and would have worked if it was a normal festival, but we literally would have needed to hire somebody in France, and we just didn't have that. So because we didn't know that they were even doing any judging, and so I just feel like eh, whatever. It's like a race that I mean, if you didn't even know it wasn't even a matter of not hearing the starter's pistol. We didn't know that there was a race, and if you don't win that, you don't even have your running shoes on. I don't think it doesn't really say anything at all about quality or anything. The it was viewed a whole bunch of times in Europe, and I guess maybe that had something to do with it. Um, but we don't know. There's no confirmation. I've heard that a lot of people that submit, because they actually get thousands of submissions, won't even hear back. But we did. We heard from them, and if those were, and I don't know what else they could be, because we didn't give the movie at that point to anyone else during the first month or so of the pandemic. It looks pretty good. It looks like a lot of people watched it, so we made it through these different levels. But because we didn't realize that we needed to, what we've been told is it's about relationships. So we didn't have any because we didn't know there was a festival happening. So anyway, I don't even really see it as a missed opportunity. It was just it was a crazy time. France was locked down at that time, like really locked down. So I'm not worried about it. Um, since then, we've submitted to a bunch of festivals. TIFF is the next really big one, um, and so that's the Toronto International Film Festival. I think TIFF and Sundance and Cannes seem to be I think most people would agree those are the three, at least in the English speaking world. I shouldn't even say that because Kansas. Uh, we'll say the Western world, I suppose, but maybe just the world, the biggest film festivals, uh, and um, and so we're, yeah. I mean, being Canadian, that'll give us at least that. That should hopefully give us a little bit of a leg up and give us a chance of getting selected. And then VIF is our hometown festival here in Vancouver, and then also we submitted to one in Calgary as well. We submitted to Fantasia. I'm really excited about that. So that's in Quebec, and that one is a genre festival that we fit really well with, and that one means a lot to a lot of the directors that we admire, and that I admire especially, and so we really want that one, and I think we've got a shot at it, but we'll see. And then um, Fright Fest also in the UK, um, and we can see because our screener is online, and we give that link to the festival so that we can see when they watch it and where it's being watched, and yeah, it's getting viewed a lot, so that's really encouraging. There's better stuff though. Rocket Chair, lol. Hey, Rocket Chair powered by a platform. That's funny. um, Fortnite. Yes, it was Fortnite. That's right. That's the Cannes Fortnite. And I mean, we don't really even know. I know the competition wasn't going on, so we still don't even really know what happened. So, um, okay. The thing that is really neat, like really neat, I think, is that I mentioned to you guys that there was someone famous that had Dangerous to Know, and that was going to watch it, but I didn't say who it was because I didn't want to influence anything. But I can tell you now who it was, and I can tell you about the reaction. But I can't tell you everything because obviously it's things are in confidence. But he would not mind me telling you the exciting stuff. Uh, so it's Mike Flanagan. So Mike Flanagan is a very established director, and those who follow the Kickstarter closely know we got actually a lot of media when Mike, who he hadn't seen the movie, but he actually backed the Kickstarter. Um, and Mike has the distinction of being the only other filmmaker we're aware of that didn't get a special push by Kickstarter. So, Dangerous to Know and his Kickstarter film Absentia, which was his first movie, neither of them went out on the weekly email blasts that Kickstarter sends out to its regular backers. And we've never seen a movie that didn't, other than Absentia, actually managed to make its funding goal. And then we were the second. And there's a fascinating kismet in that. There's way more kismet with Mike. We also only named, I guess I should say I only named, since I wrote it, but I only named one character after a real person in the movie, and the character's name was Flanagan, and and it was something that for me it was a personal thing because I was making the most indie movie ever made, and if I'm going to make something like that, you always look for people that you want to model in some way. And Mike was someone that was really inspiring to me because I knew that he went from having done that Kickstarter film and Absentia to then making larger budget mainstream Hollywood movies, and they were really good. Uh, it, Oculus was the first one that I saw, but he made a lot more after that. He's been really prolific. He also did the entire series of The Haunting of Hill House. That's him. I mean, he wrote it, he created it, wrote it, every episode, directed every episode. And now there's going to be a second season. I think it's called The Haunting of Bly House. And he adapted Stephen King's Gerald's Game. That's also on Netflix. And oh man, his list is incredible. You should check him out on IMDb. The most recent thing he did was the Shining sequel. So I think that's at least the second time that he's adapted something for Stephen King, and Stephen King has become a friend of his, and that's really amazing. So during the Kickstarter, Mike was basically the tribe was tweeting to a lot of people, and Mike got wind of what we were doing, and he just tweeted support, and then he checked out the Kickstarter, and he pledged, which was amazing. It was incredible. Then we got picked up by some media that pointed out that Mike didn't even know there was a character named after him. He wasn't doing it because these cute little kids made a movie and now they're going after their dreams and they named someone after me. I'll give him a buck. It wasn't like that. He just he didn't know. He was supporting someone who had been in his position, or he'd been in their position, I should say, really recently, and that's amazing. To give back like that is incredible. So that was exciting. But when he saw that article, because he had no idea. He looked at it again. He looked at our Kickstarter again, and then he wrote us a really long email. And some people have been following us for a while. Would be able to actually go back and find that video because we put that up on the same night. We were incredibly excited because it was the Kickstarter is so frustrating. You don't know if you're going to make it or not. You're on the edge of your seat the entire time. It's a really high stress scenario. There's a high risk, and the reward can be pretty high, and that's wonderful. But the fact that it's all or nothing is just unbelievably stressful. So to get his advice, but also his encouragement, and it was just such a beautiful message to give to somebody who's going through what he remembers well. That was just awesome. It was just so incredible to see that. They're a great match, Mike and Stephen King. Yeah, I think so too. VFX Cyborg Doctor Sleep was great. I really like the 3-hour version that just came out. Oh, okay. Well, very interesting that you say that. Yeah, they are a great match. Mike's sensibility, I think, is usually dark, but it's like a clean dark. He's a very good technical director, really knows what he's doing. Um, so yeah, he wrote that message, but he also really upped his pledge, and that really helped the Kickstarter. And I think that that did give us some momentum. And I'm not sure, had we not had that momentum, I'm really not sure if we would have made it. Um, so then we actually wrote to Mike. I think it was right at the beginning of I'm in Canada. I think it was when they closed the border because he was filming in Vancouver. I've never met him personally, but I'm looking forward to meeting him as soon as possible. But he was filming in Vancouver, and they got out the night before, so on the last day before they closed the border, and everything locked down. And I thought, he was nice enough to give us his email. Maybe we check in and just say, hey, you want to watch it, and then see what he does, because I'm sure he would have been too busy. But he had a little moment. He's still incredibly busy, but he actually was able to watch it. And I mean, it was exciting when he said he was going to watch it. Uh, then we saw that he did watch it, and then we got the reaction the next day, and so I can't share the whole thing because it's stuff that is just, it's really, they're the types of things that you um, talk about with another director with their project, and how you manage to get your um, how you manage to get your work out to the world, like how you manage to get your movie distributed, and and that kind of stuff. That talking shop stuff is that's in confidence. Also, I was gonna say you'd find it boring. You probably wouldn't. You'd probably find it really fascinating. I super did, but that's stuff I probably shouldn't say. But here's what I can say. This is like the headline. This is really cool. I missed the first few minutes. What did I miss? I know it was huge. Okay. What was my response? Okay. Planning to watch the movie, and okay, that's your response to him. So yeah, Brian, basically, Mike, he did watch it. Um, I think I'd say this is probably the coolest thing that has happened so far. So um, I don't think that Mike knows how small things were behind the scenes with Dangerous to Know. I don't think he does. I mean, um, we actually haven't really promoted just how small things were behind the scenes and how unbelievably unique it is. That we tried to make a movie that wouldn't have any compromise. So it's a movie that um, is trying to look like a movie. There's no excuses. So, for instance, there are movies that have been made, obviously, that are really very small, made by really small teams. Um, but in the past, because of the technology, there needed to be a story excuse for why does this not look like what you expect. So the convention of a movie is that there are actors, they're obviously performing in front of a camera, um, but the camera, whether it's film camera or now these great 4K, 6K, 8K cameras, is really slick. It's got very high production value, and and there's nothing to break down that fourth wall. So nothing to screw with your suspension of disbelief, essentially. But what you could do in the past was you could do something like Paranormal Activity, and you could say, well, this is we've strung all this together from security cameras, or something like the Blair Witch Project, which is, well, they're just these kids. They were just doing a project for school, and they had this camera, and that's why, obviously they're not going to have a Hollywood camera. Obviously, they're not going to have cool cuts and things, and so that was possible. the idea of dangerous to know was I felt from what I knew about information technology and where cameras were that it was possible to use the technology that was actually available that you could actually own, and make a movie, and the audience would have no idea. They wouldn't know, because if you really knew the underpinnings of the technology, you knew that you didn't need a 100,000 or a 200,000 camera, and $200,000 camera, and that those cameras were really difficult to use, and require actually teams. If you look at the credits in a movie, you've got, there's a camera operator, but then there's, camera assistants. There's a focus puller, and there's a director of photography. I mean, it's this whole group just to operate one camera, and usually there's three, or more. So with that many different people involved, of course, the price of making a movie is so much. But the payoff is it's going to look really slick. There's going to be someone whose job is just to do the sound, and not even just one person. There's a sound department. There's a whole bunch of people that do different parts of doing things on the set, like when you're actually filming, but then in post production as well, teams of them. But again, knowing where the software was going, and knowing how powerful it was, and knowing, um, anticipating the trajectory of where computers were going to be, I felt like, wow, I think you could do this with a really small group. And the group ended up literally just being two people. So that's me and my wife, and that's it. And that meant me and my wife for the entire filming. So we were the entire production crew, and then me and my wife for the entire post production. The really big trade off was post production took like off and on 3.5 years. And I only say off and on because there were a couple of times where we actually filmed scenes during that time period once we finished the main filming. But I don't think Mike knows that, and we've never talked about it. I think he just knows that it was a movie that we made that was independent, and that's it. So that whole preamble and backstory makes this just so much more incredible. He says, I can quote this part: "The movie looks great. You've got serious production value. Awesome. Good actors. And you made it to the finish line. Um, Clearly, you've poured your heart and your resources into this. Wow, how cool that is." He says you've got a great game of cat and mouse, and that's what the plot, and you know what you're doing. How awesome! He says the music is great, which makes me super happy because I did the music, so it's him saying that just means everything. Uh, so wow, I mean, it just means that we weren't crazy, and I knew we weren't crazy, but I mean, you're gonna have people that are saying things, and you're gonna have people that are, haven't seen the movie but are gonna not believe it, and when we're doing the Kickstarter, it's very public, and the no film school articles and things too, where people are going to be critical, um, but of course these are people that aren't Mike Flanagan. This guy's the real deal, and if he watches it and says the movie looks great and has serious production value, that is just absolutely amazing. Who we got here? Blair Witch, Paranormal Activity, etc. Yes, exactly. Randy, hello. Good to see you. You know what you're doing. Yes, high praise. Yeah, very cool. You might still be crazy, but it's working. Thank you. 3 cheers. You always have detractors, Randy. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I understand that for sure. You're right. Yeah. Yeah, you're right. There'll be those people, like, even when it comes out, but I'm not really worried about that. It's just that, I that sort of thing hasn't bothered me. But there's that tendency that people have. Um, me, I mean, anybody who's done first year psych, and I don't know if you went to a high school that teaches psychology, maybe you also are aware of this, but that groupthink experiment where they draw the three lines on the board, and line A, line B, line C. Line B is obviously the longest. Um, there's only one person that's actually a participant. Everybody else is paid to be there, and they're all uh, paid to say that it's not line B, it's line C. And to see how many of those people who weren't paid to be there don't know that they're being set up will change their view from what is the obvious, observable truth just so that they can fit in. Because the stress of going against the crowd is too much for most people, um, and and so I think for even people who've been involved in the making of Dangerous to Know, not people who've seen it, because none of the people who are in the movie have seen the entire movie. They would have only seen pieces at most, um, but they would have seen what it was like behind the scenes, and I think this sort of thing for them is wonderful, so that they can know, because I'm sure they must have had doubts. There's so many reasons to doubt it. As the guy's never made a movie before. That's me. uh, and no one's ever made a movie like this. So wouldn't it be better if someone who has made a movie the other way tries to reinvent the wheel? But uh, but it didn't. What happens behind the camera, that was the thing that was my concern. I would take care of that, but what the audience sees and what the audience hears and what the audience feels, um, they they're not. I mean, it's got to be 95% minimum of the audience never looks up. Well, what kind of camera did they use? What lenses were they using? Who's their sound design guy? It, they want to know about the story. They do want the movie to look good. They want the quality to be excellent, but they're not concerned about those other things. And so I knew that if I could simply put up the same pixels that a movie that's $50 million would be able to put up, um, that that was really all I needed. And then it's just a matter of having a good story. Um, and so I wrote one, and we went for it, and it worked. And if there's a guy that I trust, it's definitely Mike. There's some other directors I would definitely trust too, but I mean, Mike is right there. He's so established, and just a really good person too. Um, so yeah, it's that was amazing. That was incredible. And then we started talking about how to get the movie distributed, and so it's been fantastic. We've been talking back and forth for days, and there's been some really really intriguing possibilities. So one of the intriguing possibilities is a possibility that the movie may actually become uh, a limited series, possibly. And so Jenny and I are gonna. We've already gone. We've looked at it. We've run the experiment to see how it would work, and it is possible to actually have the movie cut into parts, and have each episode essentially, so it'd be like a limited season, but each episode would would feel like an episode, but it would also draw you forward into the next one. The movie was always designed to almost be like binge watching. I talked about that in the original Kickstarter pitch video. We used the Zeigarnik effect. I used the Zeigarnik effect in the story to keep pulling you forward, and that just means that effect that you've experienced before when you're on Netflix, and it keeps resetting your attention span. So you may promise yourself you're just going to watch one more episode, but something happens at the end of that episode that pulls you forward, because you need to know who's this guy, or how did that happen. Essentially, the effect works. Your brain has a new mystery that it's working on, and it really needs that answer, where the brain can't quite rest, and that's the trick. So um, it's interesting because having it as a series, I think, could actually work. So I'm not saying it's going to be a series, but uh, I am going to cut it as a series, and then that will give my management and the distributors multiple options. So we'll see which one is the most attractive, because as long as the movie or series stays the same, as long as the story is the same, I'm okay. Um, just because there are these built-in moments where people at home would know they could then stop if they wanted to and pick it up tomorrow, or they could go to the washroom or eat something, get a snack, that sort of thing. Just really doesn't bother me. I don't think it would. I don't think it would change the feel that much. Um, and it would certainly be better than trying to do a massive re-edit of the way that the movie's meant to be. Um, so so we'll see. There's a real possibility that could be it. Okay, so you don't have a first-time director asking you to watch their screener. Ha, that'd be cool. Yep, I get it. I had some psychology in college. I'm glad you're not afflicted with that. I am personally. I think when I finally get to see it. Oh, thanks, Randy. I think you will. I do too. Limited series, yes, Randy. For sure, right. For some reason, watch 3 or 4 hours here. Yeah. You were more versed in that effect than I obviously at the same time Twin Peaks did. Oh, uh, I think so. It's so fascinating that you mentioned David Lynch, or something David Lynch did. So um, I think when we put out our first clip, when we had those extended clips on Kickstarter, um, one of the people from one of the tribe members made a comment. It was a guy from New Zealand, said it reminds me of Lost Highway, and I hadn't seen Lost Highway since it was probably a reasonably new movie. I saw it on a small screen. Lost Highway was 1997. It's had Bill Pullman in it, and I think Rosanna Arquette. But it it was something that I think I might have rented from Blockbuster or something. And it was wow. I mean, I remember loving it, but I hadn't seen it since. I'd even told Jenny about it. Um, we watched Lost Highway last night. We did not think we were going to. We ended up staying up later than our bedtime because of it. Because we usually just watch a little something while we have dinner at the end of the night, because it's work, work, work all day. But when I saw Lost Highway, she was very excited. I couldn't keep it from her because she's heard about it for a while. But it has that same thing. I mean, he uses surrealism, magical things will occur within a world that seems real. I guess you could almost call it like magical realism, but it's a way of keeping you on your toes all the time. You really don't know what's going to happen, so you understand the story and you're invested in the characters with David Lynch. I haven't seen all of David Lynch's work, um, but at the same time, you just can't possibly know what's going to happen because some things are going to happen that just break the laws of physics and the bounds of reality as well. Um, Jenny, David Lynch, he's a little mind freaker. Yeah. So with our movie, I'd say it's interesting too. Jenny picked out things that, again, I mean, in 1997 or 98 when I saw that movie on a what would have been a normal size screen back then, but square formatted to fit the screen. Um, I really liked it. I really enjoyed it. But what was really amazing was Jenny pointed out, yeah, that okay, I see what he was talking about, um, the the camera work in the movie and the colors of the movie. Now that's way pre-digital, so that would have all been things that were achieved from the film stock or the filters that they use. For us, it's different because we get to do a lot of that in post. We know what the color will look like. but we apply that afterwards. Um, and the camera moves were very similar. Um, and I don't know, I didn't think of the I really did not. I mean, maybe it's somewhere in my subconscious, but I didn't think of it as modeling or anything, because I couldn't really remember particular any kind of particular camera work. I just really remember the feeling. But when I was watching it, I thought, wow, geez, did this get into my subconscious? Because uh, it's it's a kind of camera work that keeps your attention. You're always you're always wondering what's going to happen next, and it keeps you on the edge a little bit. I shouldn't even say a little bit. It really keeps you on the edge. There isn't really a moment where you're like, oh, a ho hum. This is that calm 15 minutes like you'll find in a lot of movies, and then something big will happen, some big action occurs. It's just always keeping you on the edge of your seat, and I maybe that's why, because I'm always just thinking about the feeling of the audience. So every time I make a decision, I'm thinking about what the audience is experiencing. It's a lot like this is why I'm not as upset about this as you might think, because I'm sure a lot of people get very depressed about this, because it is a dream to see your completed movie in a full theater. At least it is for me. I'd love to experience Dangerous to Know in just a beautiful big modern or classic theater with an audience, and see how they experience everything. I think that would be extremely cool. Um, I still really wish I could do it, but at the same time, whether it's that, or they're at home and they're watching it on their flat screens on Netflix or some other streaming site like that, um, they're still giving you their time, and really, it's almost it's almost like they're just giving you their brains. I mean, you're giving most of the sensory information and everything that they are paying attention to. And if they trust you with that, I think you need to make sure it's a big responsibility, and you got to make sure that you do a really good job. Um, that's how I look at it. So when I'm thinking about what the camera sees, I'm not really thinking about the camera. I'm thinking about what you're seeing. I'm thinking about what the audience is going to see. That's why sometimes when I was trying to get a shot in the movie, and bless Jenny and the actors, because there were times when there's a lot of stuff that I wrote that happens at night. So there'd be times when we were working and we'd film things for day, um, but then there was always plenty of stuff that we could film for night once the sun went down, and so we'd be filming things into 3 or 4 in the morning, and often right through till morning actually. But there were times that I'd be trying to film something, and technically I'd be having a tough time, and it would just simply be because um, the camera was misbehaving a little bit, and it does have AI in it, so it's software and algorithms, and it might be focusing on the wrong thing, especially because the light is so low. Um, and you have to adjust what you've done with your focus, pre-programming, and everybody has to just relax, and then you try to do this complicated take, and it almost works, but it doesn't work again. But the reason why I wouldn't stop and I wouldn't give up, and I think this is probably something directors experience all the time, especially if you're working on something that really is just, we can't go any further than this. Um, we can't go longer than this amount of time because of the crew won't stand for it, or the actor has it in their contract, or whatever it is. But with us, we could keep going, and it's because I'm just thinking, well, if I give up and I don't get this shot, I'm really going to regret it when I'm editing, because the scene won't be as good. Every shot's important, and every shot is really the director guiding you, like taking you by the hand and just sort of guiding you through this alternate reality. Um, and so what you're thinking or what you're feeling and what you're experiencing, that's my focus, and then that makes it different, I think, than the experience of everybody else that's actually on the set. Um, so it's possible that I was just thinking the scenes similarly and really just having the same philosophy as Lynch had when he was doing that, and that's probably how it ended up similarly. Astoundingly, the some of the music was very similar, and uh, huge credit to them because, again, for me, I had so much software help. I was thinking about how much more difficult it would have been to make the same type of music, even though I'm sure the people that did the score were professional, and had a lot of experience, but it was still, I think at that time it would have been really avant-garde, and very similar. And I never experienced it in a movie theater, so the sound wouldn't have been very good on the television that I watched it on. So I don't know if there was any kind of influence there, um, but we watched it in the same place that we would always watch uh, the every time we finished doing the sound design or doing the musical score for a scene in Dangerous to Know. We'd watch it with we've got a Vizio sound system. It's like the cheapest home theater system you can get that's got good reviews, and so we would watch things at 5.1. So when I heard that music, it was just hitting just the same tones, um, and it was really taking advantage of the subwoofer and everything, just the same way that mine does. So yeah, I was actually shocked. I mean, I guess it makes sense that I liked Lost Highway all that long ago. I guess my taste was already developing, even though it was. I mean, that would have been 19 years before it would have occurred to me that I would ever direct a feature movie. It, so it's fascinating. It's actually really fascinating how all those things work, how the brain works. So cool. Um, so good to hear Mike Flanagan like DTK. My wife and I love psychological thriller movies and books besides sci-fi. Also, your lead actress looks like Margot Robbie and Amber Heard. Yeah, she does. She does. Yeah, that's another thing that's really great, and I'm actually really lucky that I got her for that. Um, I see Bridget often. I'll see these screen grabs of Bridget from our movie, uh, and you have to remind yourself that she's not famous yet because she's got that thing in it. I still don't know what it is. I really don't know what it is. Um, I actually talked to Bridget about this once too, but this is when I get really super nerdy. I think there's something about her where she's really quite unique, and I guess we could say the same thing about Amber Heard and probably especially Margot Robbie, um, where um, the facial recognition for the brain is in a fusiform gyrus. So I think that when people see her, the fact that she has such a unique look makes her hard to forget. And I think Olivia Wilde has this a little bit as well. That you'll see her once, but then you have a very easy time remembering when you see her again. Oh, she was in whichever movie it was. It's just good for memory actually, because spatial memory, things that we actually picture, we remember much more than we remember anything else. It's much more than we remember sound, or um, than we remember text or numbers. But we can remember spaces. Like you might forget the street names of your childhood neighborhood, but you could probably be dropped off there, and as long as it hasn't changed, you could find your way back to your old house, even if it's been 50 years, 60 years, uh, and so I think it's just a giant natural advantage that she has, that she she stands out so much in a crowd, um, and I'm looking forward to helping her become a lead, and I know she really wants to be a lead in mainstream movies. And her, the movie, it is mainstream. I mean, it looks mainstream, so I think it's going to be really, really good for her. Uh, your movie series is Prime Media for Netflix or HBO? Yeah, HBO. That's a good one. Maybe. Yeah, I would love it. I'd love it. And I guess HBO Max. Yeah, I think so. Um, I think they would be really good for it. I mean, I want it to go somewhere where it's got a really big audience, but where it's treated really well, and that just means that there. It just means that it gets to the audience and that it isn't hidden or it isn't buried. If it gets out in front of people, then that's really all any of us need. Everybody on that was involved in making it will be fine because people will, by and large, people are really going to enjoy it, and then it should be no problem then getting the second and third movie done, um, and then we'd be on to post movies after that. Um, Donna, hey, Donna, I actually just talked about your husband, probably like 10 minutes ago, maybe 5 minutes ago, because I was talking about David Lynch and I was talking about Lost Highway, which Jenny just saw for the first time last night. Um, and yeah, I don't know, you'll have to see it on the replay, but wow, he really picked up on something, and it's amazing that he'd only seen just the extended clips and I guess the trailer, but like he really picked up on something because I was amazed at the similarity. I'd seen Lost Highway, but I just consciously hadn't. I didn't really recall things from a director perspective, like the color and especially the camera work and a lot of the music, especially in that first half hour too. Um, but yeah, wow, he really picked up on something. Yeah, HBO is a bit more dark. Yeah, I think that could work. I think that could work for us. I don't think we're too dark for Netflix or for Amazon. Someone told me that Hulu was actually fairly dark too. I do think. I mean, I'm not sure if they're gonna change or not, but I don't know if we feel like uh, an Apple place, but um, and we're definitely not Disney Plus. But yeah, I think those other places would be good. HBO, I think makes some sense for us. We just want to get in front of as many people as we can. That's the thing that matters the most. So if it was between Netflix, I mean they're obviously the biggest, but if Netflix were um, not able to tell us that they were going to put the movie in front of people so that they could actually see it, because you have to see it. If it's something that will only pop up if you search for it, then that's unfortunate and it's not going to do that well. um, I mean, it's the same thing on Amazon with our books. I mean, you got to be visible, and so uh, if HBO were to offer more visibility, even though they're smaller as far as their streaming goes, yeah, it's all possible. It just depends what happens there. Uh, who even uses Amazon, Netflix, or HBO all the way? I think Prime might be number two, um, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. But yeah, we're still not even. We haven't put out of our minds yet the possibility. I mean, the fact that we've got a nice connection with Sundance. Sundance's submissions are open, so we are probably going to submit there. Um, I'd put out of my mind the idea that I would possibly have Dangerous to Know go to Sundance. Back when we were doing the Kickstarter, I knew that we'd already missed the deadline for the 2020 Sundance, which would have been at the very tail end of January. And I just thought, well, we missed it, and we're definitely not going to take that long to have it appear at a festival. But the pandemic has changed things. Now suddenly that they're reopened for the applications, and Sundance isn't um, is it's 6 months away. So, well, yeah, maybe it's not impossible now. So we'll have to see. There would still have to be the possibility that Sundance was actually going to take place, and there's like a tiny possibility that they'd be able to fully take place, um, but it's pretty small. But it's possible. So we'll see what happens, and I'm just keeping my mind open. What I really want to do though is, I guess I guess getting it to everybody as fast as possible actually isn't my top priority. My top priority is finding the best place for it. So the place where the most people will be able to find it. So it's those two things that are my concerns. Um, so the best place for it, but finding it as fast as possible. As long as we don't just take the first thing offered to us, because there actually have been things offered to us, but it would be very obscure and really difficult for people to find, and we'd have to try to just even promote where it is for them to go hunt for it. And that's not something that we want to have to do. We're going to try not to do that. Just watching the sunrise with coffee. Oh, right. Morning. Well, good morning and enjoy your coffee. I don't know if David's there with you, but if he is, please tell him I said hi. And man, he's sharp. That was quick. I I didn't even see the Lost Highway comparison. I remember when he said it, thinking, "Wow, I'm going to take that as a big compliment," because I remember loving the Lost Highway, but that was the first time I'd seen it in um, at least 22 years, and I'd only seen it just on a little screen. It was much bigger on a larger screen. Oh, I really like your movie. I feel like your movie is beyond Sundance from what I saw in extended clips. DDK moves faster. Yeah, it might be. It's possible. Uh, yeah, it's possible. I think these festivals do usually have a flavor or taste to them, um, and so we'll see. Um, and if I mean, we want to make sure that the movie goes somewhere that is the right audience. I mean, we wouldn't want to put the movie in front of an audience that just really wouldn't be into that kind of movie. Um, but I guess the good thing with it is that it is a movie that I do think actually has broad appeal. It doesn't have broad appeal the way I think Posthuman does, and that's funny because science fiction is usually thought of as smaller. But I think Posthuman is just such a broad universe that it's accessible the way that the Avengers is accessible, or that Star Wars is accessible, um, but or Star Trek. Um, this one is in that it's in that Gone Girl, the girl with the dragon tattoo, that range, which is still very very big, but you wouldn't want to put it in front of someone who has very delicate sensibilities. It's a really grown up movie, um, and it's definitely not a movie for kids. And so yeah, you've got to be a grown up. Personally, I think a mature teenager could definitely watch it. It would be no big deal. But teenagers, the maturity level is it's based on what parents think, and it could be it could go anyway. So, um, but it's a grown up movie, and it is dark, and you have to be into that sort of thing. Those books do incredibly well. I mean, Gone Girl's done incredibly well, and The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo did incredibly well, and the movies did quite well too. Oh, really? A good woman is hard to find. Um, that's Abner Pastol. I saw it too. It's filmed in Northern Ireland, which is where I'm from, but it never references that it is in Northern Ireland, which is cool. Uh, Almost everything that you see that comes out of Northern Ireland is all about the fact that it is Northern Ireland, and and the conflict there. But this one was just set in Northern Ireland, and Abner Postol is he made a movie called Road Games. That was his first movie. I think that one is his second, and the that first movie is terrific. I really like that one. So he's 2 for 2. He's made two really good ones. Um, Definitely admire him.